Welcome to the Pantheon Parenthetical. My name is Lance Ash. And starting with this episode, I am going to tell the story of my trip to Key West. I've been twice, and this episode will deal with the first trip. In 1989, I was 19 years old. I don't know what month this would have been. Can't remember. But I was working at Kmart, making no money. I was dating this girl who worked as a waitress at a truck stop, and she made hardly any money. But somehow together we concocted this idea that we were going to go to Key West for a trip. And I think the idea was we would just cobble together as much money as we could and see what happened. If we had to sleep in the car or sleep on the beach, then that's what we would do. However, right before we left, I stole my mother's gas card to ameliorate some of the expense, make things a little easier. The first place we gassed up, I turned the card over and it said, "This is a Chevron travel card. You may charge the cost of accommodations or meals at the following locations." And it had a list of places, hotels and restaurants. And I immediately thought, okay, we are set. Now we can stay at hotels and eat and everything's going to be fine. So that's what we did. Spent one night in Key Largo. And I would imagine we only spent one night in Key West. I don't see why we'd stay two, because I know we stayed at the exact same hotel in Key Largo on the way back. So I would imagine it was one night in Key Largo, then one night in Key West. I don't remember that hotel. Not very well anyway. And then one night in Key Largo, and then on the way back, stayed one night in Daytona Beach. The hotel in Key Largo, the gift shop in the lobby sold liquor. So I had my girlfriend use the card, since it had my mother's name on it, and had her pretend to be have my mother's name. And so that's how we were able to get hard liquor. I had a friend of mine who was old enough to buy alcohol buy me a case of beer before I left. But now we had hard liquor, and it was like novelty liquor, chocolate and vanilla liqueur and crap like that. I remember getting sunburnt and really sick at the beach because I was so drunk. And then that night, eating at Benihana's, just uncomfortable with my clothes touching my skin. I don't remember much of what we did in Key West, but I remember Daytona. It was off season, so Daytona Beach was totally abandoned, and the hotel we stayed in, there was nobody there. But the restaurant attached to that hotel was in the basement, and it was called the King Cellar. I've still got a book of matches from that place, and it was a totally 70s decor establishment with wrought iron fixtures for decorations, exposed stone walls. It was supposed to be like a Renaissance era dungeon or something. We had steak and lobster, and I remember being very satisfied that I had had sex every day of the trip. I had told the people at Kmart I was going to be gone a certain number of days, but I overstayed that, so I had to make up this elaborate lie about going on a trip with a bunch of people. A girl got bitten by a snake, and it was just this colossal con job to get out of being in trouble. Anyway, got back. My mother knew I'd stolen the gas card, but she figured I just bought a couple of tanks of gas. But then a month later, the bill comes in, and it's over $300 that I've charged on the card. And my father gave me a good talking to, angry tirade. And I remember that in his remonstrations with me, he referred to me as Mr. Cool. So, Mr. Cool says, thank you very much for listening to this episode. Next time I will talk about my second trip to Key West.